Well, hello there, my fellow rushers. How are you doing today? King Rexy here. And today, we're having another hero review. Now, this one is quite a unique one, to say the least. It was sent to me on Discord by the username Trapeus. I think that's how you pronounce this guy's name. Basically, this is his name. And he sent me a hero design. Now, I'm not quite sure in which Kingdom Rush game this is supposed to be, but the design is definitely interesting. I've already went through the whole design myself, so I have some pretty... let's just say that the design is very intriguing. Now, the hero is the Knight and Healer, which sounds interesting, but as you can see here, it's a combination of heroes, so that's already raising quite a few questions, but let's get through the backstory real quick. Or the background story, I suppose, as he put it. Now, the backstory isn't all that big, as you can see, it pretty much ends right up in here, but still, I don't care if it's a super long story or a short story, as long as it's a decent one. So, let's get down to reading, shall we? In Vesnan's castle, the healer was previously Vesnan's trusted assistant that could empower entire armies with just a flick of his power wand. The healer had never liked being an assistant though, because Vesnan would always hog his glory. "How did you conquer that kingdom, Vesnan?" asked a ghost. "Obviously, I did it all by myself," he replied with a smile on his face. The healer also just couldn't stand the evil guys who always would call him names at lunch. "Why do you call me names?" asked the healer. "It's our job," they say, laughing. Over time, everyone thought he was worthless and nothing. But one day, that all changed. It was just another fine morning. The healer always glimpsed down below at the prisoners and saw how terrible Vesnan treated them. He also saw a courageous knight who always tended the hurt. Then the healer suddenly looked away to the clouds, admiring its beautiful looks just before returning to the endless work ahead of him. "Healer, fetch me my book of tricks," Vesnan called, "and be quick." Vesnan's voice was not very friendly. The tone of his voice made the healer go still. "Healer, what are you doing?" he had grown furious. "Fetch your book? I think not." The healer lifted his wand and slammed it down to the ground. Vesnan was trapped in a box of some sort. "What have you done?" the healer replied. I think that was supposed to be Vesnan saying that question, but alright. "What I should have done a long, long time ago." He sprinted down the castle, trapping evil one-skulled allies, and headed straight towards the dungeon. "Everyone out!" he demanded. "You all shall be freed of your chains, for I am your freedom!" And with that, the prisoners were empowered with light that was unimaginable. The healer stopped in his path. He looked around at the prisoners. "You," he said. He pointed to a knight he recognized, with a dark helmet and a large form. "You shall be the captain." The large knight stood beside the healer and said in a deep voice, "What should we be called?" The healer looked up at the knight. "We won't be called anything. We need the element of surprise." The healer was finally recognized by the group of knights as a leader. The knight was also first in command besides the healer, and they became friends. Now, they do have the element of surprise when they fight their enemies because nobody knows them. The end. Alright, that was a pretty interesting story. It's all about Vesnan's, I suppose, apprentice of some sorts, who is just being treated poorly, and one day he was like, "You know what, I had enough of your BS," so he just trapped him in there. I don't know how you trap Vesnan though, like, I thought Vesnan would have some sort of counter towards it, but apparently no, maybe he was caught off guard. And then, he just freed everybody, and he became friends with what I assume is a Dark Knight. I don't know, that's a pretty nice story. Good on you, man. Well done. Now let's get on to the statistics. As you can see, we have multiple statistics. One of them is for the knight, and the other is for the healer. So it's kind of like if you had if you had like 2 copies of Drax, but each one of them have their individual stats and abilities. So that's already pretty intriguing. Now let's get on with the knight first. So he has no ranged attacks, obviously. The attack rate is 1 second, and his speed is average. Now, by average, I'm not quite sure, since he didn't specify in which game this hero is. I would assume it is probably Frontiers, maybe, or you know what? Since it's Veznan, probably the original. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, let's read to the statistics. 500 HP, that's pretty decent. 45 heal rate per second, I suppose. So he's gonna heal back up pretty quickly. He's gonna take like 11 seconds to heal back from nothing to full, which is good. Armor, physical. Now, he didn't specify the percentages, but from what I know, a high armor is anything above 70%, as far as I'm aware. Maybe it has to be 65, but don't quote me on that. So his armor can be anywhere between, can be like, I would assume somewhere around 70 to 80%. So his efficient HP can vary between 1666.6 to 2500 efficient HP. So yeah, this guy is definitely a pretty tank. And the attack damage is from 30 to 50 with 1 second attack rate. That is 40 average DPS, which is not bad. So he has pretty good durability, decent healing, and a good damage output. So far, I like the knight. Now let's move on to the healer. So he has ranged attacks. I would assume he also has melee attacks, but they're probably like very weak. The attack rate is again 1 second, and the speed is the same, I suppose. He has 350 HP, which, you know, it's pretty low, but it's understandable. He is a ranged attacker. He doesn't really need to have some sort of toughness. However, he has 50 health or heal rate per second, so even if he gets damaged, which could happen, he's gonna heal back up insanely fast. Like, we're talking 7 seconds worth to heal all the way up. That's some insane regeneration for having such a low amount of HP. And the armor is physical and magic resistance? Whoa, hold on. So he has both physical and magic resistance. Now we're talking about some uniqueness up in here. I don't think I've seen a hero that has both armor and magic resistance. Maybe I have, but I suppose I forgot about it. But that's interesting. So so medium armor is pretty much anywhere between 40 to 60% or so, I think. So his efficient HP can vary between 583.3 to 875, which is quite impressive for someone who is meant to be hacking away from the outskirts instead of being in melee. So that's pretty good. And 20 to 40 damage. Now, he didn't specify the damage type, so I would assume it is physical damage, but since he's some sort of magician, maybe it's magical damage. I don't know. He didn't specify, so we'll see. But basically, 30 average damage. That's still okay. You know, it's decent. Now let's get to the fun abilities. It's not upgradable, so I suppose this is the innate ability. Instead of placing both of these heroes in one spot, you can put them anywhere on the map by clicking on their names. Example: the knight can go on the path, while the healer can go to another. When both heroes are dealing damage to activating their skills or abilities, my bad, they combine their XP. In other words, they level up twice as fast as normal heroes when they fight. This has to do with their ultimate. See ultimate. Alright, well, we'll check the ultimate later. So that's interesting. As I said, just like Durax copies, they're separate from one another. They can go to individual choke points. So if you have multiple choke points, you can just split them up. If you need some tankiness, you can put the knight in one choke point. If you need more range damage, you can get the healer to get into another choke point. Or maybe you can combine them to create a very strong choke point. Interesting. Alright, I like it. And they level up twice as fast, so you don't have to grind a lot in order to max these guys out, which is pretty appreciative. Now let's get on with the abilities. Alright, keep in mind that because these heroes are combined, they have less abilities than other heroes. This kind of makes it fair. Oh yeah, that definitely does. I mean, if you have multiple heroes that have unique skills, they need to have a little bit less abilities to make them less you know, broken. So that's good. Let's start off with the knight's abilities. Solid Shield. It costs 1, 2, and then 3 hero points. The cooldown is 35 seconds, so okay. If the knight receives damage when his HP is less than 20, 30, and then 50%, he will do double damage and have a 10, 20, and then 30% chance of blocking the enemy's attack. Ooh, alright. This is on a cooldown, so okay. Imagine if that was a passive ability though. Oh my god, this guy will be wrecking for sure. So when he drops below 50% HP, he's gonna activate the skill, and he'll have a 30% chance to block enemy's attack, similar to the knight from Legends of Kingdom Rush. So that's interesting. All right. I assume that he gets above 50% HP, the solid shield disappears because he didn't specify any duration. So I assume the ability just sticks up as long as he is below 50% HP. But then again, why does it have a cooldown? I don't know. That's a little bit of a questionable, but still, I think that this ability is pretty good, especially for melee heroes. Adding extra utility is always a positive. Moving on. Sword of Light. It's gonna cost 2, and then additional 2 hero points. The cooldown is 25 seconds. So, here's the description. The knight raises up his sword and points at the group of enemies, releasing powerful light that stuns them for 5, 10, and then 15 seconds. This ability also gives courage to allies by making them deal extra damage. Alright then, now that's some serious stalling power. 15 seconds stun, that's insane. Like, 15 seconds. That's more than Kata's ultimate ability. And Kata is known for stalling, so that is quite damn impressive. Like, for 25 seconds cooldown, this ability will be up for a little bit. You can use it a little bit more than half the time during a level, so you're definitely gonna be creating some heavy choke points with this guy. You can stack a lot of enemy. If you have like 2 separate hordes, you can stun the first one, and then for 15 seconds, the hordes must combine. Like, imagine if they take over 15 seconds to combine, because that would be ridiculous. Because I'm pretty sure this is not for Kingdom Rush Vengeance. And yeah, once the hordes combine, just lightning strike them or use some area damage like burst arrows or fiery nut. I don't know. I'm just giving random examples at this point, but I really liked. Pretty darn strong ability, a little bit too good in my opinion, but I would have made the cooldown 30 seconds, but whatever. 25 seconds I still think is kind of balanced. And I also like how he gives extra damage to nearby allies. He didn't specify the percentage though, so I'll leave I guess this is left to the imagination of the reader. Now, the last ability. Tank-I-ness. Tank-I-ness, lol. So it costs 3, and then additional 3 hero points. The cooldown is 30 seconds. Alright. When the knight goes up against an enemy with more HP, he will increase his health by 10, 15, and then 20%. His damage by 10, 15, and then 20%. Alright. And his attack speed by 5, 7, and then 10% until he targets an enemy with less HP. In other words, his health will be 600, his damage will be 36 to 60, and his attack speed will be 0.9. Interesting. So every 30 seconds, if you send him against an enemy that's tougher than him, he's just gonna become stronger. I mean that's good. That's a great way of overcoming tougher enemies. I mean, granted, if he's fighting some insanely tough enemy or an enemy that just has a lot of damage in general, these stats are probably not gonna help out as much, but they're still gonna make him slightly tougher, and he'll be able to do damage a little bit faster, and his damage obviously is gonna be increased by a little bit. So that's another nice ability. Not a lot of area damage from this guy, but he definitely has a clear role. The knight is the blocker. He has a lot of durability, a lot of ways to buff himself, and also a pretty insane AoE stun, which can definitely help you out in some tough situations. I like the knight. Now let's move on to the healer. Healing Aura. It's gonna cost 1, 2, and then 3 hero points. Cooldown 0 seconds. Okay. Maybe this is a passive ability, I assume. All allies around the healer will receive an infinite amount of regeneration when any of their health has gone away, similar to the enemy witch doctor in Kingdom Rush Frontiers. The regeneration can be upgraded from 5 to 10 to 15 per second. This ability always affects the healer. Ooh, all right. So if any one of your units' health goes away, they're gonna get some pretty nice regeneration, but he didn't. But we don't know. Oh, all right, now I get it. So once their health drops down, once their health goes away, they get this super crazy regeneration, like 15 per second. It may not seem like it's that insane, but it can definitely help your barracks stand their ground very effectively against low to mid tier enemies. So that's good, and it always affects the healer. So the healer now is even tougher to kill, which is obviously a big positive. For this one, we don't really have a name. Alright, I don't know why we don't have a name for this ability, but okay. I guess the writer forgot to add it. Okay, so the ability, which is unnamed for some reason, has 3, 3, and then 2 hero points cost. The cooldown is 10 seconds, which you should be using it pretty frequently. This ability grants the healer to shoot 3, 4, and then 5 super fast ranged attacks every 10 seconds. That is around 100 to 200 magic damage every 10 seconds. While doing this attack, if the enemy the healer's targeting dies, the healer will continue using this attack on a new enemy. Alright, that's good. So every 10 seconds you get some burst of magic damage. That's good. Pretty nice. Just an extra way to deal with a good amount of extra magic damage. So because it is magic damage, I would assume that his basic attacks are magic damage, do magic damage. So he's basically like somewhere around like a mid-tier wizard tower in a way. So that's good. Pretty nice ability. I liked. Nothing bad to say about it, nor nothing too great. Just decent, nice burst of magic damage. I liked. And the last ability, the Overwhelming Army. It's gonna cost 2, and then an additional 2 hero points. The cooldown is 0 seconds again. I think it will be better off if you named it passive ability, because if it doesn't have a cooldown, then it's technically kind of a passive ability. At least that's how I think. I don't know, I'm stupid sometimes, so maybe I'm completely wrong. So let's read through this ability. If an enemy dies near the healer, it will come out of the ground as a paladin. Each paladin has 80, 90, and then 100 HP, and deals between 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and then 20 to 25 damage. You can have up to 2, 3, and then 4 paladins. Note, the paladins can still be affected by the healer's healing aura. Alright, so not only are you... so, that's pretty good, now that I think about it. It's kind of like Mortimus's Undead Servitude, but much stronger. Like, these paladins can be... Sure, they're not like super strong, 100 HP and... well, we don't know if they have armor. I would assume they have some sort of decent armor. So, they should be somewhat tanky, I guess. Maybe not like as tanky as like... the paladins from the original Kingdom Rush, but they'll definitely be a nice way to block enemies. Their damage is okay, not too low, but not too high, and you can have up to four of them all the time if you kill enemies fast enough. That is, they don't seem to expire, which is great, because that's the reason why I hated Mortimus's Undead Servitude, because the zombies are gonna eventually die, and you lose stalling power by that. But in this case, that's not the situation. The paladins are gonna stay. Now, I assume they are stationary, so when they spawn, you cannot move them; they just stay there. So you may want to think of your position of the healer if you want to use this ability to its full potential. All right, and these are all the abilities. Now we're moving on to the ultimate for the knight and healer. So they have one ultimate ability. Imagine if they had multiple ultimates, though. That would be dope. But probably it will be a little bit too strong. Anyway, let's check the ultimate. It's gonna cost 4, 5, and then 6 hero points. The healer and knight combine one of their abilities, the healing aura and courage abilities, to affect all allied towers and units on the battlefield for 10, 15, and then 20 seconds. This means all towers will receive double damage, and all allies will receive regeneration. Oh my. Alright then, well that's pretty darn interesting. Very strong in my opinion, like doubling the damage of your towers for 20 seconds and giving your units pretty good regeneration all over the screen. That's pretty insane, man. Now, we don't have the cooldown again, which... why don't we have a cooldown? I would assume for ability of this power, it's probably gonna be like something between 40 to 60 seconds cooldown, I think, in order to balance it out, because if you could, if like, this ability is pretty strong. So I would assume that it has a pretty high cooldown. But yeah, pretty strong ability. Now, there's a downside to the ultimate, which is, interesting. If one of these heroes doesn't have one of these ultimate abilities upgraded, the ultimate will do nothing. Oh, so you need to upgrade the healing aura and the courage abilities. Alright. I mean, it's fair. It is definitely fair. And now here we have the ending paragraph. Overall, I feel like if this was in-game, people would experience a new kind of hero that is interesting because it's a combination of heroes. These heroes that are combined don't have as many abilities as a normal hero though, because it would be fair. It would be fair that way. Yeah, I agree. Now, why do I make this? Or why did I make this? My bad. Sorry, I can't read today. I made this hero review because I love Kingdom Rush heroes and I love sharing my ideas with people regardless of if they are good or not. I hope you liked my hero. So should I say heroes? Well, to be honest, I really like them. I definitely like the idea behind it. Instead of having one hero that has the 4 abilities and 1 ultimate, you have multiple heroes that have 3 abilities. So that's pretty good. I definitely like how diverse they are. The healer is mostly there to provide some support and additional stalling power with his what was it called? Overwhelming army ability, while the knight is just meant to be there and absorbing damage and dealing with tougher enemies, protecting the healer, which is pretty interesting. I really like the synergy that they have between one another. Now, because there were some important facts missing, like cooldowns and all, I can't quite rank this hero, but I would say this hero will definitely be onto the high end, as far as, you know, if we're talking about like each hero ever created in Kingdom Rush, these 2 are definitely gonna be one of the top. I'm not quite sure if they're gonna be like in the top 20s or 30s. Depends on how you look at it, but I'll definitely put them somewhere in the top 20s because of their uniqueness and originality. I mean, sure, granted, they're not as OP as other heroes, but that's good. I don't like OP heroes. I like heroes that are balanced, interesting, and have a lot of micro involved into their playstyle. And these 2 definitely have a lot of micro to do. You have to keep track of both of them and their positions, especially the healer, because you don't want to get paladins scattered all over at some random points on the map. You want them to be close to your choke point, so that way you can strengthen it, and you can also keep the healer in the choke point consistently due to his healing aura, and to deliver some extra magic damage, while you can send out the knight to separate tough enemies away from a horde, so that way you can use an ability on them, like some sort of insta-kill or some sort of strong single target damage from one of your towers. That would be cool. And yeah, I really like this hero design. Even though there was some information missing, I really like it. So, Trapeus, you did pretty well. Well done, man. I admire your, what was the word for it? I admire your work. Let's just say that. Sorry guys, I'm a little bit tired today, even though it's like in the middle of the day. I didn't really got much sleep last night, so I'm a little bit groggy in a way. So apologies for my moodiness. But yeah, well, with that out of the way, that's gonna do it for the video. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I appreciate you for sticking around to the end. Subscribe if you want to see more of this content in the future. And while you're at it, drop a like on the video. It means a lot to me. And I will see you in the next video. Until it comes, that was King Rexy, over and out.